We are Vladimir and Yuliya Dashchenko. We would like to talk today about a very interesting subject, about what's going on in open sources in industrial cybersecurity, how this information that we obtain from open sources influences us, how we perceive it, how we accept it, and let's start. And we would like to start from the question, why did we start this research? It's quite humanitarian, it's not directly related to cybersecurity and ICS, and there are several explanations to be made. Right now, our team develops incident library, which must summarize information about different incidents, and we plan to publish it. And during our approach, working on this encyclopedia, we discovered that there's a lot of incidents that were widely revealed in open sources and mentioned in open sources, but without details about this incident. So the question that we asked ourselves, does it make sense to include these incidents into the library? On one hand, yes, of course, because the attention of the public and the incidents attracted attention of the public, indeed. And can we be sure that the information is reliable? Then the next question was, does information from open sources influences public opinion about any incidents in cybersecurity and ICS security? So we decided to have a broader look. How much do people trust information? So within our research, we made a certain questionnaire, a poll. Less than 200 people were answering our questions, and we tried to cover Russian and English-speaking people to have more or less reliable information. There was almost equal spread. Russian-speaking people were a bit less, but yet it's about the same. So the age of these respondents was from 20 to above 60. So results of sampling were not quite bad, and the results of this poll we will show a bit later. As we want to talk about the influence of information from open sources on public opinion, so it's quite nice to start from the positive influence of this information. And here we must say that, of course, openness of information about incidents is very positive about general level of awareness of people about cyber incidents. And it's relevant not just to professionals among cybersecurity, but in general to people who are far from this issue. As these subjects are highlighted, it motivates teams of experts to develop solutions to protect from such cyber incidents. And it also, one way or another, leads to development of the legislation, like development of standards, which is also very good for ICS cybersecurity. So first we would like to ask ourselves questions. What sources people use about getting information on cyber incidents? So we have expected results. Main source of information is internet, and respondents could choose several options in their answer. And so most popular answers were internet, several social media communities, Telegram channels, forums, and colleagues and friends. Let's move to negative impact and the facts that are negatively impacting, as we think, the relation and opinion about these incidents. The first thing we would like to say that often open sources try to publish news as soon as possible, just to be first. And with that, the information about incidents is very scarce. So the content often has not reliable, not checked information. We would like to have several examples, and during preparation we found several very cool news, interesting news worth highlighting, and there are two vivid examples. First, pipeline explosion that happened in 2008 with a very big title, but after some time, SANS publishes technical report where we see very soft wording, which says, well, actually, this incident possibly is not true, or it's possibly false. Another news that was there, that Russian hackers penetrated US electricity grid with the reference to official sources, but after some time there was a news about this incident with the reference to the initial source where the title was fake news. So possibly they were fake or unchecked or unreliable news. So it is very important to acknowledge that there is a fact and effect of the first title, what stays in people's minds stronger, first news than the news afterwards, which could be unnoticed. So what our questionnaire has shown, they do understand that not all information be trusted, especially source of information as internet has a very high percentage of distrust, and red actually is the percentage of distrust of people to this particular source. And interesting is that the lowest level of distrust is the source which actually doesn't cause any doubts, colleagues and friends. That's why when we share some news and we tell friends what we read the news, actually we are very reliable for the information that we spread. And actually we are at a technical conference with together friends, and we have the highest level of trust right now and the lowest level of distrust. That's why we need to trust each other right here. Let's move to the next negative fact, which in our point of view has a strong impact on people's understanding of various cyber incidents, and that's exaggeration. When in the pursuit of the very big news, the titles contain information which is exaggerated. We have two examples very obvious about that. At first example says that the Ukrainian security service people stopped technogenic catastrophe. But if we read the technical facts, we see that, well, yes, there was a certain cyber incident, but it could not at all impact and cause big consequences, and far from causing technogenic disaster. And very small German newspaper published a news with reference to the internal sources that the mysterious hackers hacked some military thing in the US, and that started to get spreaded around German and then European mass media, and sometime later German official representative from the military office made the statement that, sorry, we cannot confirm this news, this incident, and probably there was a certain infection and not infection or hacking of missile system. So another thing is top trends. When the cyber incidents in the ICS try to follow trends, fancy trends. There are specific examples that cause doubts and cause fears among the professionals, and these are different targeted attacks, implementation of new technologies like IoT or industrial IoT, new threats as different miners that also bring in different fears which could be quite justified. So what they are, let's take a look at statistics. In fact, the statistics shows that not all the trends are impacting people.
For instance, through the years, the topic of crypto miners has been discussed, which has become quite relevant also for the ICS security. So, but just a few people voted for this topic being the most critical. So, but the key problem appears to be with the state-sponsored targeted attacks. And as the survey showed, which was carried out by the lab in the beginning of the year, many companies are concerned about this problem. And our statistics of the threats shows that the share of that type of attacks is lower than an accidental infection with malware. So, it comes that there is a shift in the focus of attention. Of course, you should be afraid of targeted attacks, which are a big threat for ICS. But it's quite simple to prevent cyber incidents if you observe the simplest rules for network data protection. And curiously, if you look into the data of the polling, in the middle you see the 40% for the lack of security solutions for ICS and industrial automation systems. So this is a sign that systems we have in place still have to be developed. Or maybe this is about the perception of the respondents. And also one of the top position is about weaker security mechanisms from ICS vendors. So you would believe, so people are scared of attacks, so maybe they are likely to pay more attention to protection. But however, the effect is the opposite for the IT. So a lot of information is being published about these type of technologies being potentially dangerous, and we see some cases when companies are afraid to implement these technologies. But more attention should be paid to IoT security. And the next negative impact of open source information is a high degree of political focus. And sadly, if we would watch news from 5 to 8 years ago, and if we would read about cyber incidents, they would sound: hackers attacked this or that person or organizations. And now, in public media, attribution becomes the priority. And of course, attribution is key to identify the source of the threat, but quite often in open source it can be used as an element of political propaganda, and the focus may shift from real problems to some sort of data manipulation. And quite often information being published is not proved. And if you remember a presentation by our colleague, it's quite challenging to prove it, and the news are published quickly. So that sort of attribution may be erroneous. And talking about the politics, results we got are quite interesting. So we asked the respondents what sources they see as trustworthy, local or foreign. And you see that the situation is very different between Russian-speaking and English-speaking audience. So Russian-speaking audience is prone to trust to foreign sources, and English speakers tend to trust more to sources from their own country. So we can conclude that Russian-speaking audience is trusts more in foreign sources of information. And another point about incidents related to open source news. So quite often important details are omitted on the news. Let's remember the Triton case. In the first report of FRA, there was a very important technical detail saying that the attack could have been performed if the physical key was inserted into the PLC. But if we would track the news that appeared straight after the incident, this technical detail was missing. So when a person would read news from open source, so they can believe that our galaxy is in danger, but with that essential technical detail, so it downscales the threat and the impression of the attack. Yes, so the effect would be much smaller if readers would read the source publication. But our survey revealed that every 10th person ignores the source publications. But the results of the survey were quite optimistic, that more than 50% would try to find the original publication if it is of interest. But there is a tolerance, because our survey was targeted on people that are really interested in ICS security, and our subjective opinion is different. That less people like to read the original publication. So let's come to the key result of our research. So what factors influence trust related to information that you see in open source? So, and the results showed that the main factor is availability of technical details or research on a particular incident, then the credibility of information source and the opinion of professional community. If there is a discussion on this or that incident and the conclusion the professional community comes to, and wide resonance and official statement is of less importance. So official statement is statement from victims of the incidents or representatives of the public authorities. So what should we do, and how do we classify incidents which do not lead to a concern, or incidents which are not which lack trustworthy coverage? So we tried to develop a methodology for scoring based on 6 main attributes, including credibility of a source, availability of technical details, evidence of data provided. Then next, the opinion of the community, official statement, and media resonance. So each of the attribute has like a quantitative and qualitative scale. And to calculate the basic level of trust to an accident, we would allow to use a trust formula. And every attribute has a special credibility rate. And then calculating all the indices, you can get to an overall credibility or trust level, and we identified 3 levels: low, medium, and high. So this is our first project, and we plan to publish an article where we would specify everything in detail, and we would like to get feedback from all of you, because that would allow us to be unbiased, and it would be nice to test this methodology. I would like to remind you that we wanted to classify incidents into 2 categories: just trustworthy incidents and those where the results are doubtful. So we tried to rate the most important incidents. So we took some incidents from the past which were top, where the most voters supported. So we took 2 Ukrainian incidents from 2015 and 2016, and also the Shamoon 2.0 attack, and an incident in Sweden with flight control system which collected more points than Shamoon 2. And we also decided to add one non-existing accident, a Sapphire attack, Sapphire ICS attack. It was non-existence. We just came with that idea, and so we realized that there are some people with a good sense of humor. And outside of the rating, there are some incidents which were in real life, but no one voted for them. So we took 4 incidents and tried to rate them by our methodology. So let's look at the 2 first incidents with the blackout in Kiev and in Ukraine in 2015. So the 2015 incident is well studied, and there were a lot of technical data and reports published on that, which influenced credibility. So it got the top score. So Ukrainian power grids cyber attack. So Kiev blackout came second because of the lack of technical information and evidence in favor of the incident. So maybe the research were not made public. But if we are talking about these 2 incidents, of course, the first one is more credible than the second one. And the 2 incidents in the bottom of the table, if we would go back to our rating, we would see that Shamoon 2 attack got less points than the incident in Sweden. And this can be an indication that the public resonance in open source was higher than with Shamoon 2 attack. But if we would talk about using our methodology, the Shamoon 2.0 incident has a higher credibility score than the Swedish air traffic control incidents. So our methodology really allows to rate incidents based on data made available in open sources. Yes, and we would like to announce some results which would be evident. So this is no rocket science for many. So first of all, open source information influences our perception, but however, not only in a positive way. Then we would recommend you to trust only in technical facts. So if when you're reading news, so always try to look for the original source. This is about 12% of people which try to find the original source only once they are interested. And we don't doubt that there are trends that would lead to improvement or worsening of ICS security and give rise to some fear. But let's not forget about cyber hygiene. On your plan, on your enterprise, you should observe the rules. Then you would decrease the number of incidents related to infection, and then you can look into the trend without any fear. And finally, we would like to recommend you to be responsible. You should be responsible for what you publish. Our information we publish should be unbiased with all the relevant technical facts. And finally, I would like to thank our colleagues from CERT who helped us with the research and with the presentations, which include Anton Shipulin, Ekaterina, Daniil, and the rest of them. Thank you. Thank you.